Welcome. Come in from wherever your day has taken you, and let the door close soft behind you. Tonight isn't for solving anything, it's for resting. If you are waiting on something tonight, a prayer you've said more times than you can count, an answer that hasn't come, a room in your life that's still quiet when you hoped it wouldn't be, this story is for you. It's the story of a woman named Hannah, who waited longer than most of us ever will, and who learned something in that waiting that she couldn't have learned any faster way. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands rest open in your lap, or wherever they happen to be tonight. You don't have to hold on to anything right now, not even your prayer. Just for tonight, let it rest in someone else's hands. Picture, if you like, a hill town in an old, dry country. The kind of place where the light turns amber long before the sun actually sets. There's a well-worn road leading up toward a modest sanctuary. Not a grand temple yet, just a tent and a small house of worship, tucked among old trees, where families come once a year to bring their offerings and to pray. The wind moves slow here, the way it does in places where nothing is rushed. Dust settles on sandaled feet. Oil lamps are lit one by one as the light fades, small orange stars answering the ones beginning to appear overhead. Somewhere on that road, a family is walking together, the way they do every year. And in that family is a woman named Hannah, carrying something heavier than any of the offerings in her hands. Let's walk with her a while. Not to fix anything, just to keep her company in it, the way we all wish someone would keep us company in our own waiting. By the time this particular family reaches the gate of Shiloh, the sun has nearly gone. Smoke rises thin and steady from the altar fires, carrying the smell of roasted meat and burning cedar out over the hillside. Other families are already there, spreading blankets, calling children in from wherever they've wandered, tying up donkeys for the night. Somewhere, someone is singing, low and unhurried, the kind of song that doesn't need an audience. It should feel, and mostly does feel, like a homecoming. For one woman among them, though, it also feels like walking, once again, into a room where everyone can see exactly what she doesn't have. There was a man named Elkanah who lived in the hill country of Ephraim, and who loved two things very much: the Lord his God and his wife Hannah. He had another wife too, a woman named Peninnah, who had given him sons and daughters, many of them, filling his house with the noise and clatter of a large family. Peninnah, for her part, was not simply cruel by nature. She lived, most likely, with her own private fears about her place in Elkanah's heart, about being loved for what she could provide, rather than for herself. Pain, when it goes unspoken long enough, often finds its way out sideways, aimed at whoever is standing closest. That doesn't make the hurt she caused any smaller. It only means that grief, in that household, was never living in just one woman's chest. But Hannah's arms had stayed empty year after year, and there is a particular kind of quiet that settles into a house where one woman waits and one woman doesn't have to. It isn't loud, it isn't cruel most days. It's just there. A door that doesn't open. A question the neighbors stopped asking out loud, though you can still see it in their eyes. Every year this family made the long walk up to Shiloh, to the tent where the Ark of God rested, to bring their offerings and to worship. And every year, Elkanah, who truly did love Hannah, more than the customs of his time expected him to, would set aside a double portion for her at the meal. Not because he didn't understand her sorrow, because he did, and it was the only language he had for saying so. Peninnah found other ways to speak, not with kindness. There is an old kind of hurt that people cause not because they are monsters, but because they are small, and someone else's pain makes them feel, for a moment, less small themselves. Year after year, on the road up to Shiloh, in the doorway of the house, at the table where the portions were served, Peninnah found the soft place in Hannah and pressed on it, gently and cruelly, the way only someone close to you can. Perhaps it happened at the well, in front of the other women, a comment tossed off almost lightly about how full a house should be. Perhaps it happened at the meal, when the portions were handed out, and Peninnah made certain, without quite saying so, that everyone noticed whose children were seated at the table and whose chair sat quietly empty of that particular joy. We don't need to hear the exact words. You already know their shape. Everyone who has waited for something long enough has heard some version of them, from someone else, or from the quieter, crueler voice that visits our own thoughts late at night. Hannah wept. Not the loud kind of weeping, the kind that happens quietly over a meal you can't quite finish, the kind you press down and carry with you back onto the road, back into the tent that night, back into the years that keep turning over without the one thing you asked for. Elkanah would find her there, in whatever quiet corner she'd found for herself, and he would say, gently, the way a man says something he's said before and doesn't quite know how to say better. Hannah, look at me. You haven't eaten again, and your eyes have that look they get every year on this road. Tell me what would make this easier to carry. Whatever love I have to give you, is it not enough on its own, without children too? Hannah would look at him, this good, gentle man who truly did love her, and she would nod, and even manage something like a smile, because his kindness deserved that much. But nodding isn't the same as being answered. Sometimes the people who love us best can only carry us part way into a sorrow before they reach the edge of what their love alone can do. It was tender. It was also not quite an answer. There are some griefs that love alone cannot reach, not because love isn't enough, but because the grief has its own shape, its own place it needs to go. And the place Hannah's grief needed to go wasn't only her husband's arms, kind as they were. It was somewhere older, somewhere that could hold not just her sorrow, but her hope too, without either one closing the door on the other. The months between one pilgrimage and the next were their own kind of waiting room. Hannah rose each morning and tended the house, ground the grain, drew the water, same as always. She watched Peninnah's children grow a little taller each season, learn to walk, learn to talk, learn to run to their mother when they fell. She did not stop loving her life for not having what she wanted from it. That's a harder thing than it sounds, to keep living fully in a life that still has an ache running through the middle of it. But some years the ache is quieter than others, and this particular year, on the road back to Shiloh, it was loud again. So one evening, after the meal at Shiloh, after Peninnah's words had done what they always did, Hannah got up quietly, the way people move when they've decided something without announcing it. The ground was still warm from the day's heat, the air cooling fast the way desert air does once the sun is gone. Somewhere behind her, the sounds of the camp went on without her. Laughter, a child crying, the clink of dishes being gathered. She walked past all of it, alone, toward the entrance of the tabernacle, where a single lamp burned steady in the growing dark. The priest, a man named Eli, was sitting near the doorpost, as he did most evenings, an old man by now, his eyes not what they used to be, watching the last of the worshippers finish their business and drift back toward their tents and their fires. He had sat in that same spot for more years than he could easily count, watching people arrive with their grief and their gratitude, their bargains and their thanksgivings, most of it spoken plainly enough for him to follow. He would have seen a woman come and kneel a little apart from the others. He would have seen her shoulders shaking. What he could not have known, what no one standing nearby could have known, was what was actually happening in that moment. Because Hannah wasn't praying the way people usually prayed, out loud, with words the whole camp could hear if they wanted to. She knelt on the worn stone just inside the doorway, her hands pressed together in her lap, the lamp's small flame throwing soft, shifting light across her bowed face. Hannah was pouring out something too large for words. Her lips were moving. No sound came out. It was the kind of prayer that doesn't ask to be overheard, the kind that comes from so deep inside a person that even they aren't entirely sure what shape it will take until it has already left them, and it can take a long time, kneeling like that, before the shape finally comes. Something like this, perhaps. We can only imagine the exact shape of a prayer no one else heard. If you truly see what I carry, and you remember me, if you don't let me be forgotten in this, I will give back to you whatever you give me, for as long as he lives. Not a demand. Not quite a bargain struck out of desperation either. Something closer to an offering made before the gift had even arrived, as if Hannah already understood, in some quiet corner of herself, that whatever she was given wasn't hers to keep for keeping's sake. It was hers to receive and to hold, and in time to release again, back into the hands that had given it. Eli, watching from a distance, misunderstood entirely. He saw a woman's lips moving with no sound, her face wet, her body swaying slightly with the weight of what she carried, and he thought, not unkindly but not gently either, that she must be drunk. "Enough of this," he said. "Sober yourself before you come before the Lord like this." Imagine that. Imagine finally finding the courage to bring your rawest, most wordless grief to the one place you hoped it would be understood, and being misread completely. If you have ever felt that, brought your real self somewhere hoping to be seen, and instead been misjudged, you already know exactly how that moment must have felt. But Hannah didn't collapse into it. She answered, steady despite everything. "No, my Lord, nothing has touched my lips but grief. There's no wine in me, only years of sorrow finally finding a way out. Please don't think badly of me. What you saw wasn't sin. It was simply everything I've carried, let loose in the one place I hoped it might be understood." And something in Eli, an old priest who had spent his whole life standing near this doorway, watching people arrive with their griefs and their hopes, something in him softened. "Go home in peace then," he said, "and may the God you poured your heart out to answer what you came here asking for." Hannah rose from where she knelt. Her knees would have been stiff from the stone floor, her eyes still swollen. Nothing about her outward circumstance different from an hour before. Here is the part of the story that is easy to walk past too quickly. Hannah had not received her answer yet. Nothing about her circumstance had changed. She was still, as far as anyone could tell, the same woman who had walked into that tent with an aching, empty kind of hope. And yet, so simply that it's easy to miss the weight of it, she went her way, and she ate, and her face was no longer sad. Not because the waiting was over, because she had been heard. There is a peace that comes only from an answered prayer, and there is another kind of peace, quieter but no less real, that comes from finally being able to set the whole weight of a longing down in front of someone who can actually hold it. Hannah found that second peace first. The waiting continued. But it was no longer a waiting she carried alone. Time passed the way it does, unhurried, ordinary. One evening folding quietly into the next. The dry season came and went. The rains came, softened the hard ground, and passed again. Another pilgrimage to Shiloh came and went too, and this time, when Hannah walked that same road, something in her had already begun to settle, though she couldn't yet have said what. And then, in its own season, not forced, not early, the answer came. Hannah conceived, and in time she held a son in her arms, and she named him Samuel, which means, in the old language, heard by God. Every time she spoke his name for the rest of her life, she would be saying quietly to herself and to anyone listening, "I was heard. I was not forgotten." And true to the prayer she had made with no sound at all, on the day she believed no one else could hear her, when the boy was old enough, Hannah brought him back to that same tent at Shiloh, and gave him back to the God who had given him to her. She would have knelt, perhaps, in the very spot where she once knelt with no sound coming from her lips. Only this time there were words, and there was a child beside her, and there was Eli, older now too, watching a different kind of moment unfold in the same doorway. Not as a loss, as the completion of a promise made in a moment no one else had witnessed, kept in a moment everyone could see. The waiting had not been empty. It had simply been the space where something was being prepared, quietly, out of sight, in a timing that was never hers to control. If tonight you are the one waiting, for a child, for a diagnosis to change, for a door that seems to stay shut no matter how gently you knock, for an answer to a prayer you've whispered so many times it barely feels like words anymore, I want you to notice something about Hannah's story. Waiting doesn't always look the same from the outside. For you, it might be a marriage that feels lonelier than you expected, or a body that hasn't healed the way you prayed it would, or simply a season of life that feels stalled, with no clear reason why. Whatever shape it takes for you tonight, it belongs in the same story as hers. Her peace didn't begin when her prayer was answered. It began the moment she stopped carrying it alone. Maybe that's true for you tonight, too. Maybe the waiting itself isn't a sign that you've been forgotten. Maybe it's simply unfinished, not empty, not wasted, just not finished yet. You don't have to have the right words either. Hannah didn't. Her lips moved, and no sound came out, and it was still heard. Whatever you're carrying tonight, however wordless, however long you've carried it, you're allowed to set it down here, even just for these few minutes. You don't have to solve it before you sleep. You don't even have to believe tonight that it will end the way you hope. You only have to let yourself be heard in it, the way Hannah was, at a doorway, on an ordinary evening, long before anything outward had changed. The waiting isn't wasted. It never was. Let your breathing settle on its own, however it wants to. There's nothing left to do tonight. No prayer to get right, no waiting to solve. Wherever you are in your own story, still asking, still hoping, still listening for an answer that hasn't come yet, you are not overlooked. Somewhere outside, if you could see it, the same kind of stars that watched over Hannah's long walk home are still turning quietly overhead tonight, patient, unhurried, keeping their own kind of watch. You are seen in the waiting, the way Hannah was seen at that doorway, long before anything outward had changed. Rest now. Let the lamp burn low. Let the night hold what you can't hold anymore tonight. Whatever you brought in with you tonight, you can leave it here, by the lamp, until morning. It will still be there if you need it tomorrow. Tonight, you only need to rest. If you wake in the night still carrying some part of what you came with, that's all right too. You don't have to carry it well, and you don't have to carry it alone. You only have to let it be held, again, tomorrow, the way it's being held tonight. Sleep well. You are not forgotten.